just wanted to share some reflections on some of the Quran that we've been reciting recently, and you know, just from Surah Al-Kahf, which is very famous because we read it all the time, every week. I wanted to reflect on the trials that are mentioned. There are 4 major stories in that surah, and the first one we'll go through quickly. What's the first story? The people of the youth of the cave, right? Ashab al-Kahf, the youth that were in the cave. And what does that signify? That story is a test of what? Is a fitna for those people of their deen, their religion, their iman. Right? The youth, they were tested with the fitna in the community, that their iman was tested. Right? Their identity was tested. This is something, and this is why, the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ and that we are asked to recite this surah every week to reflect on these lessons, because our iman, our deen is tested every day. And the second story, what's the second story? The 2 men, one man, he had 2 gardens, and the other man, he had no gardens. And so this man with the 2 gardens, he became arrogant. And so and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him because of his arrogance. Right? Because he felt he was too good. He had all this stuff because he was blessed. Blessed in the sense that he was better than other people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him and his wealth. And what is that a test of? Test of your wealth. Test of money. Right? And this is a fitna that we deal with every day. Right? Because everybody wants more money. Sometimes, we consider making money in a way that's not halal, and displeasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, going against his pleasure, just to have, and we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wrote down our rizq is written, right? But still, we might do something to make more money, to earn more money, get richer. And so it's the fitna of money. And what's the next story? So this story of Musa and Khidr. And what happens in the story of Musa and Khidr is that Musa alayhi salam, who's a prophet of Allah and should be amongst the most knowledgeable, and he is amongst the most knowledgeable, yet still there are things that even he needs to learn. Right? And he learns these from Khidr alayhi salam, and it's a long story, but nonetheless, this is a fitna of what? Of knowledge, right? And this is something that we see today. This is the fitna of knowledge is a major issue, especially nowadays, because sometimes you think you know something, and it's not knowledge only of the deen, but also of the dunya. And sometimes you learn something, and you start to feel like, I know these a few hadith, I memorize some Quran, listen to a few lectures. You start feeling like a scholar. You start feeling like you're ready to give some fatwas. And so that's not only in the deen, but also in the dunya. If you look around right now, the fitna of knowledge, like you're getting news, and I would argue that if you look on social media, there's probably more news that's fake than real. There's probably more news that is fake than real. Because, as soon as something happens, there are so many, everybody's got their opinion. Sometimes it's designed to be fake. It's designed to demotivate their opponents and the enemies. But sometimes it's just, people just saying random things and passing them on. And then we start spreading them out just because it might agree with what we want to believe. And so the fitna of knowledge. And then the last story is the story of Dhul Qarnayn. And Dhul Qarnayn was a powerful leader, you could say, and so this is in this story you see the fitna of power, of might, and this is also a fitna because there are people in the world today who don't have the power, right? And there are people in the world today who have the power, and we think that because they have the might, they are right. Right? So just because a government has a very big military, has a very big navy, has a very big military power, it doesn't make them right. doesn't mean that they can go around and invading countries and destroying other people and bombing people at will, and doesn't make them right. And we can see a very clear example of that happening right now. And so the fitna of power. So when you put all of these things together, we see that the Prophet ﷺ, he told us, all of these things are happening, they happen to us every single day. Every single day, right? We encounter them every day, every week, all the time. And so this is why the Prophet ﷺ, when he told us to say this, read this surah, it is a protection from what? From the Dajjal, right? Which is one of the biggest trials. The Dajjal coming is one of the biggest trials. And this is, and so we need to learn about the Dajjal and my kids, when we, ever since they're able to speak, and we make a dua every morning when we leave the house, and we make sure they say, protect us from the shaitan and protect us from the Dajjal. Right? So this is something we need to teach our kids. In fact, the companions, they would there's a famous dua that we should say in the salah every time. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhab an-nar wa adhab al-qabr وَمِن فِتْنَةِ الْمَحْيَا وَالْمَمَاتِ وَمِن فِتْنَةِ الْمَسِيحِ الدَّجَّالِ. I can only say it in the prayer, I think. That's why. So this is you should say this after your tashahhud in every prayer. In fact, the Salaf, the companions, they would ask their children after they prayed, did you make dua from the Dajjal? And if they said no, they said repeat the prayer. Like this is how how emphatic they were with the importance of making dua from the fitna of the Dajjal. So as we reflect on just current circumstances, and we see the fitna, the challenges that are around us, the tests that are around us, that we deal with on a daily basis, it kind of emphasizes the importance of not only reading the surah every week and getting that protection of the Dajjal, but also reflecting on it, and then also trying to memorize it and teaching it to our children. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq and give us the ability to see the truth as truth and allow us to follow it, and to allow us to see the falsehood as falsehood, and give us the tawfiq to avoid it. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
क्या नहीं कराता है